Hey guys, here is our next edition of the Pride Behavior Series. I'm here with Anna Ledgert, and I brought her here with us today so she can share some of the cool things that she's been doing in her classroom this year. So far, Anna has written 0 referrals. She's been able to handle all of her behavior issues in the room, all while maintaining high expectations, a culture of learning. So I just wanted her to share just what she's been doing this year and how it's been going.
Okay, so I always start my day really in a relaxing state. I always put on calming music so that when they come into the classroom, they can kind of get their transition into family life and then coming into the school, and it's calm. And so that always seems to help because they're coming into an environment that they feel safe and they feel happy. So that's how it starts. And then, if a student starts to show signs that he or she is having a hard morning or even a hard afternoon, I'll pull them aside, and I always have a very calm voice. I always talk to them very calm, and I ask them what's going on. At first, a kid's not going to trust you, so of course they're not going to open up. But if you stay consistent and you just keep telling them that you care about them and you want the best for them, they eventually start to see that you truly mean it. And so as the year goes on, it gets better and better, and that student really will trust that they can come to you no matter what. And sometimes if a kid starts to act out a little bit, can send them to, I have a quiet corner where they can just go and chill for a while because they need that, getting away from a group sometimes so that they can just calm themselves down. So that's kind of how I deal with kids that come in that are, a little bit harder to get engaged.
I really like how you focus on building trust, and it sounds like that's not something that just happens overnight.
Yeah, like if you send a kid out, if they're giving you a hard time or anybody a hard time, if you're just going to keep sending them out, you don't get that relationship, and so you got to work on really building that relationship, because when you have a great relationship with the student, then they are going to want to do better for you. Yeah. So you don't want to ignore them, and you just have to continue to say, I want to help you.
I did want to ask you about a couple situations specifically. You have some students in your class that have experienced some trauma in their life and are currently going through some traumatic experiences. So those students that can often go into crisis right in the middle of your class doing what you're trying to do, how do you handle that?
Well, if it's a behavior that's not affecting maybe the way something that I'm teaching, maybe they're under a table, I choose to ignore it, and then they end up coming out. I mean, they're not being disruptive, and quite honestly, they are listening. They just want attention, but I choose not to show that attention for when they're like sitting under a table. It doesn't start off with getting violent. It's always normally something that's quite simple. So if you just ignore it, then they come around. You can't fight a kid with, you got to do this, this, and this if they're not quite comfortable, And so I just ignore those minor things, and then it just kind of washes over. So,
Has that approach, have you been able to invite those students more and more into what you're doing? Have you experienced those behaviors less frequently?
Yes, absolutely. It starts to diminish the more you're in school, because then what you do is you focus on the positive things that you see that they do, and you really build that up. And so when you're building up the positive things that you see from them, they're like, oh, I'm getting attention here. Okay, this is how I can, this is how I can get attention, and it's just.
That's awesome to hear, taking that non-traditional approach, and even though those behaviors aren't necessarily remedied in the moment. You're taking more of a long-term strategy
Yeah,
and
exactly.
seeing results.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you for taking your time to share with us just what you've been doing in your classroom and how it's been working. And I'm sure that you're probably more than willing to speak with anyone that might be interested in finding out more about the details of how that looks in a classroom.
Yeah.
But again, thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Till next time, guys.